I'm Natasha Hritzek, and I'm going to be, I guess for all intents and purposes, the timekeeper. But I wanted to introduce our first session today, which is Marketing Effectiveness in the Digital Age. And I also want to introduce our moderator, and our moderator is Shubu Mitra from the Coca-Cola Company, otherwise known as Coke.
Otherwise known as Coke. Always known as Coke.
Always
Thank
known
you.
as Coke.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome back. It's too bad those guys who are not here are going to miss a fantastic session. But we won't tell them much about it so that they can regret their decisions. Thank you again for coming back. The topic is marketing effectiveness in the digital age. And if there's anything that is a hallmark of the digital age is fragmentation, measurement, complexity, and a whole bunch of things that we've all been discussing. However, that doesn't mean we can walk away from the task of driving effectiveness. If anything, it's even more important. One of the ways we all do that is by building a knowledge base of what works and what doesn't. And this morning, I have 4 presenters, actually 5, but 4 teams, who are going to add to this base of knowledge on what works and what doesn't. So first up is Lucien van der Hoeven and Realeyes Moosman. So Lucien is EVP of MarketShare based in Netherlands. Realeyes Moosman is Head of Research at Twitter in the UK. You can take it on.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, all brave people that made it this morning to the conference. So, measuring ROI. I must be honest, Alicia and I were discussing should we put the word how on this title slide. But yesterday, Gerhard Lau, Deutsche Telekom, he mentioned that something like 53% of the members of the World Federation of Advertisers was measuring ROI. So I would just want to do a quick test in this audience. It will be a bit biased, so just hands up for who is measuring ROI. Well, 53 could be more or less. And who is measuring the ROI of social? A little bit less hands. And are you making a difference between paid, owned, and earned? That's even less hands. And are you doing it in a complete context, measuring direct and indirect, measuring the effects of other touch points? Yeah, okay, 4 hands left, but that's not that bad. Anyway, measuring ROI, that's what our topic is all about, and measuring ROI in social. We've seen this before. Measuring ROI of social is a bit difficult. A couple of years ago, measuring ROI of online display was one of the hot topics. And people were struggling with this a little bit. But if you look at it right now, we even see programmatic buying of online display. So we think that measuring the ROI of social will be going in the same direction. In a couple of years, it will be normal as everything. Today, it's not yet. MarketShare is in the area of marketing performance and marketing performance optimization. You probably heard of MarketShare. I'm not going to make a lot of noise around our company. But some 2 years ago, we took on the challenge of measuring the impact of Twitter. And 2 years ago, Twitter was a little bit of a new kid on the block in terms of touch points for marketing. But still, MarketShare partnered with Twitter, and we worked very hard to get a good view on what the impact of social and the impact of Twitter is. And we really got to some amazing results, but I'm going to hand over to Alicia to share these results.
Thank you, Lucien. When we first started measuring Twitter ROI, we had a few questions to ourselves. What metrics should we use? From user perspective, the 2 metrics that you see most often are retweets and favorites. Are these the right ones? Should we use them as input metrics? What about other engagements? Well, what about impressions without which engagements cannot happen? So we really had to do a bit more soul searching and test a few out in the models that we'll share with you a bit later in the presentation. To make matters even more interesting, Twitter has multiple media forms. In fact, there are 3. There is earned Twitter. This is when users talk about brands. And what could be important with earned Twitter media is not only the volume of this conversation, but also the quality, sentiment, or sometimes themes. There is also Twitter-owned media. This is when brands talk to their followers, which they can do at any time at no cost at all to themselves and as much as they want. The key factors here could be volume of this communication, tone, message, frequency, but also the size of the audience they're addressing, which is the follower counts. And finally, there's Twitter paid media. Not yet. This is when advertisers invest in Twitter ads in order to reach their target audiences beyond their follower base. So we wanted to capture the entire Twitter universe and understand the differentiated impact of Twitter paid, owned, and earned. But we knew that if we only look at the relationship between Twitter and sales, we're going to get the wrong picture. We need context. We needed to understand how and what other media channels contribute to sales. Therefore, we needed to capture all offline and online media as well. But we know that it's not only about media. There are also other factors, other marketing factors such as pricing or product attributes. There are competitive factors. And finally, there are macroeconomic conditions that can also influence sales outcomes. We needed to examine the entire universe. This is precisely why we turn to marketing mix modeling, not only because it is the industry standard for measuring media ROI, but also because it allows you to capture the entire universe. However, as many of you know, marketing mix modeling requires continuous data, typically 2-3 year worth of variable in order to measure the impact that this variable captures. This is where we run into a bit of a problem a couple of years ago, because Twitter had been an ad platform for only a year and a half, and some of our brands' continuity on Twitter looked something like this. It's not a lot of data to work with, and we were a bit concerned. But we found a creative solution. Instead of measuring ROI at a brand level, we thought, well, why not pull data across multiple brands in the same category and measure category ROI for Twitter instead? Overlaying multiple brands' Twitter data produces a trend that looks like this. Now we have more data to work with. Not only does it help us build more robust models, but it also allowed us to measure a normative sales response to Twitter media. And I'll let Lucien talk a little bit more about the mechanics of the models.
Yeah, I'll keep that short, by the way. So, yeah, MarketShare is in the business of modeling, and marketing mix modeling is an interesting way of addressing the ROI of Twitter in this case. So we looked at offline marketing drivers and online marketing drivers. Looks a little bit like the customer journey, that the word we heard a lot these days. I think, I don't know how many times we heard it, quite a lot actually. But we also look at external factors, so competitive, macroeconomic, and then we split between direct and indirect impact. So direct impact is, but when it really drives your outcome, mostly sales. If a tweet drives direct sales, for example. And indirect is, for example, if a tweet drives a search on Google, which drives indirectly sales again. So this is how the model was built. And yeah, models are wrong per definition. You all know that. But some of them are usable. And to be honest, the models that we built for Twitter on category level were very usable. They were, a picture like this shows a little bit on how you test a model. You test the actual things that happen against what the model predicts. And here we had an error of something like 6%, which means 94% of the model was right. So actually, very strong models came out of this exercise with Twitter. And what did we learn? Now, I'm going to hand over to Alicia again.
Well, we actually learned a lot, but today we're going to show you just a couple of highlights from our models. One of the most surprising, but also intuitive findings we came across is the relationship between TV and Twitter. What we learned is that when Twitter is part of the media mix, TV dollars work harder. The ROI on TV advertising is higher. Just how much higher? Well, it really depends on the market and the category. In the UK FMCG model, TV ROI was 29% higher when Twitter was part of the media mix. In the US auto model, TV ROI was 19% higher, and in the UK movies model, 8% higher. Now, this was an important finding for us, not only because we had long believed that Twitter and TV work quite well together, and therefore we launched a plethora of TV-centric tools on our platform for marketers, but also it gives marketers an important tool to elevate the return on their biggest media investment, television. But this is one of the many ways in which we analyzed the relationship between TV and Twitter. And today I can only tell you so much. However, a little bit later during the day, my colleague Alfonso Calatrava will tell you a bit more about TV and Twitter and how they work together. But I'd like to share another insight with you. We recently completed a UK movies model where we analyzed 59 box office movie launches in the UK across 3 years. And what we learned is that Twitter plays an extremely important role in selling box office movie tickets. In fact, the model attributed 18% of box office sales to Twitter. Now, before you gasp, and some of you woke up, I can see that from here, let me tell you what is actually behind this result. Well, the truth is, majority of this impact was an earned Twitter media, which is the conversation about movies. In fact, 13% of sales was attributed to this factor. Now, we know that this is a startling stat, but what's important to recognize is that there could have been factors that we did not capture in the model, which is, for example, offline word of mouth. So therefore, we could be picking up some of the effects of offline word of mouth here as well. But it is hard to dispute that word of mouth in general is important for driving sales. It is also hard to dispute that the easiest place to track word of mouth for any brand is on Twitter. On top of earned, Twitter-owned media contributed another 2%. And if you're a marketer or a studio marketer, you might think, well, great, 15% between owned and earned, I don't need to do anything else. But it is important to realize that earned media is outside of your control, for the most part. Owned media effect is going to be determined by the size of your audience, follower counts. It is paid media that is the most immediate way to impact sales using Twitter. And historically, paid media contributed 2% to sales as well. On top of this, TV-Twitter synergy contributed 1%. Now, when you look at 2% from paid, do you ask yourself, is that good? Well, it turns out that it is. It translates into £5.88 ROI on every pound invested. And this is not the only strong result that we received from Twitter. In recent US auto models, we received ROI of $7.90 for mass auto category and $17.80 for luxury auto category. There is a simple reason why Twitter works so well. It is a targeted platform. We use behavioral and conversational signals to connect the right audiences with the right brands. And what started for us as an exercise in measurement has become the first step into optimization, which Lucien will mention in his concluding thoughts.
This is the final slide, so don't worry. So I'm just going to summarize what did we learn. I won't ask you. What did we learn? Social is measurable. Social is very impactful. But you have to measure it in the full context and look at both direct and indirect effects. And if you start measuring now, Tom Peters already said it, what gets measured gets done, and it can be very impactful. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Lucien. Thank you, Alyssa. You can grab a seat. Next up is Thomas Kelly. Thomas is Director of Consumer Analytics and Research at AOL in the US. Thomas?
Thank you, Shubu. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here at ICOM 2015. Let's bring up those slides. Cool. Thank you very much. So we're shifting to content analytics and native analytics. Most of us probably agree that most people dislike online advertising. But you ever wonder how dogs feel about it? I have. And this is their answer. Let's roll this quick video. So he hates it, right? Humans are not the only species that hate this concept of the ad tax, where you're getting free content in exchange for some level of ad exposure, of messaging, especially in video. But I'm going to show you data today from a custom content and native normative database that we've built at AOL. It's one of the only ones that I know that exists, where we measured over 2 years of 50 different content programs that have run across properties on AOL like Huffington Post, Makers, TechCrunch, and Engadget. It's a very robust database that we can understand what works and what doesn't in the world of content, custom content and native. So with such a robust database, it's easy to see that obviously content works very well for brand building. But it also allows us to understand how much brand is too much when talking about content. So we broke our database out into 2 different groups. One where campaigns featured very light brand integration, and the other where they featured very heavy integration, very easy to do. So you would expect that for a metric like unaided recall, you're going to see a really big difference. We did, it's like 50 percentage points. Would we see the same thing for purchase? Yes, we ended up seeing it, a very significant difference. What is that? 15 percentage points. But certainly you're leaving something on the table as far as enjoyability of that content goes if your brand is plastered all over the place, right? Not really. 3 percentage points, so it's not significant. So this concept of getting in people's way and giving them this load, this burden, is not really true when it comes to content when it's good. So the point here is when you're considering how much to integrate your brand in a content program, floor it, don't take your foot off the gas. I call this the don't be a pansy slide. But when you're wondering, how do you really know when you've gone from content that's just tolerable to something that you really like, that consumers in the audience really likes, and in some cases really love? How do you know? I'm going to show you a program now that we did for Ford called This Built America. It highlighted the Ford F-150, which is the #1 selling truck in the United States. The Americans are crazy truck buyers. And the program was designed to change the attitude around the state of American manufacturing, which is very often negatively portrayed by the media, unemployment, the Rust Belt, and so on, and put a more positive spin on a comeback of American manufacturing. I'm going to show you a really quick clip now, and then a very quick clip of some reaction interviews we did from the audience in Atlanta, Georgia. So if we could roll that real quick.
Build the 2015 F-150, Ford rewrote the rules of truck technology and manufacturing. The F-150 salutes Chance Rides, a company that understands being a leader often means doing what's right, not what's easy.
My dad actually started in the manufacturing business right after World War II.
We've had people here for so long.
The employee base is very, very long-term. This morning we had the birthday party for Dwayne, who's 80 years old, and he retired about 15 years ago, but still comes to work every day.
In our business especially, you have to have dedicated people that really care.
What did you think?
I love it.
Why?
Because that's what I care about.
I like the way it tied everything together and showing that, we can do it again. Those are the kind of stories that I think, or to me, it actually gave me goosebumps.
You know what I just bought? I bought a Mustang. You know why?
Why?
Made in America.
All right, so this is really American. I didn't realize how American this was till I spent a week in Spain, of course, but it's really American. But what did we see? We saw the content oozes the F-150 audience, family, long-term employment, that dude's 80th birthday, Dwayne's 80th birthday. And the reaction shots were fascinating, right? When Charles at the end says, because that's what I care about. I mean, you can't distill an emotional connection any better than that's what I care about, especially among Southern American truck drivers. So this was really nice to see. There was one issue. The content, This Built America, was preceded by a pre-roll, video pre-roll. So we wondered clearly this was a big hit content-wise. So we questioned, was this emotional goodwill going back to this pre-roll? Psychologically, you would think the emotional resonance carries forward, so we decided to test that. So we bookended the content with the same exact pre-roll. We just ran it as a post-roll and tested these 2 scenarios against each other to see, are we carrying this emotional goodwill forward? Is there a difference? The results were pretty interesting. For the features and benefits of the F-150, they were relatively flat. But for the emotional components, I feel Ford cares more about American industry than other auto manufacturers. I feel more positively about Ford. Better impression, learned something new, more interested in the F-150. We saw significant differences between these 2 groups. People who saw the pre-roll and the content only versus the bookended content. So that was really kind of interesting. What was even more interesting and very counterintuitive from this program is that we asked them to tell us how much brand inclusion was too much. What was the right amount? And so we broke it out into 3 groups: pre-roll, full video, pre-roll, and then a shorter forward content piece, and then our test group, the bookended piece, pre-roll, full video, then post-roll. And what we saw, 78% of that third group said the level of forward brand inclusion was just right. You realize what this says? We doubled their ad load, and they're saying just right. So clearly, so this is why I call this the end of the ad tax, because when our database is showing and our research is showing that when you get the content right and run it in the right context, people aren't seeing it as much of an ad tax anymore. They really, these consumers actually thanked us. You saw that one guy say, it actually gave me goosebumps, I think is what he said. They're thanking you for reminding them of who created that content. Now, autos, trucks in the United States are a very emotional topic, especially when you abut it with the state of American manufacturing. This was very counterintuitive, something we never would have expected, doubling an ad load and people telling us just right, far more significantly than the other groups. That's it. Thank you very much for being a great audience.
Thank you, Thomas. Clearly, product integration done right delivers results, and great example. Next, we have Mihkel Jäätma. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correct. All right, thank you. CEO of Realeyes in the UK. Come on.
Excellent. Thank you, Shubu. I'm really happy and quite impressive to see you all here today. So we already heard about mixed modeling and context, and what I'm going to talk a bit more about is content and what are really some of the latest tricks there that we have seen have helped brands master their social media success. And that social media success has not been an easy game to master for many brands, because the game is really moving on from the very TV-centric world that the brands have been perfecting for decades. So a couple of zeros, as you see on this slide, have pretty abruptly moved around in the industry and put brands in a position that they're not really perfectly adapt to deal with. And that's creates really an absolutely new economic and operational reality that the traditional methods are struggling to deal with. So when you're kind of testing a couple of key assets in few key markets, running surveys, focus groups works perfectly fine. But when you increase that scope to hundreds, and you want the results twice as fast, then these methods do run absolutely into their limits. So what I'm going to talk about is what are some of the methods that can address that challenge. And moreover, the evidence around sort of predictive power of self-reported data is often less than convincing, which also makes it the application part a bit more complicated. So the situation today really is that brands can do much better at every stage of the campaign, from content testing to media planning and campaign optimization. And this is what I'm going to tell you we can actually do with, because the situation is improving hugely with some of the new, more scalable, more valuable data sources coming available. And the one that we really focus at, Realeyes, is emotions. So what we do is we use the latest advances in both computer vision and machine learning to understand what people are feeling via regular webcams, and any webcam that you already have in your device, which means that we have huge access to global audience at scale. And that emotion data, it's not only scalable, but it's also very valuable in terms of predicting the business outcomes. And specifically in this presentation, I'll show you some of the work on how it helps us to predict that social media success that I've been talking about. So before we go into that, if we can play the video to just give you a quick sense of how it works. Can we play the video? So again, just to iterate, technology works via all the existing software that you have. People are on their own device. They're watching videos as they normally would. And all we do at Realeyes is really ask them nicely and clearly if they're willing to share the feedback. And for those people who opt in, we're seeing how different groups react to that in real time. And then what we do with that rich emotion data is that we actually translate that into a simple performance score on how emotions are performing, and we call that emotional score. And that is something that we put a lot of data science effort into at Realeyes. So what we have really gathered over the last couple of years is a database that has seen over 3,700 people watching over 2,000 videos, and we have seen in that data set what really are the drivers that make people want to watch and share videos. So what you see on this screen is how our very simple 1 to 10 score actually aligns with how videos are doing in terms of getting viewed, shared, and tweeted about. So the more people feel, the more they do. A very clear relationship, at least for a social video success that you see on this chart. And our clients are really, the clients that we work with appreciate that simplicity of the scoring approach that we have developed. So here's one case of how that emotion targeting can work. So we were helping our very good partners over at AOL to optimize the distribution for a Heineken campaign. And that was a particular campaign with 11 different videos, which were targeted to 3 markets. So what we are able to do, our platform, is just to give you the same performance score that I told you about in just a couple of days for each video in each market, giving very concrete targeting guidance on which touch points to really zoom in and which ones to pull back. And you see a couple of those touch points here on the screen as well. And performance-wise, it's all about climbing those same curves that I showed you earlier, because if you zoom in on the content and the segment that really responds, you're always going to get much more out of the same money that you put into the media than otherwise. So if you look here in this Heineken case, moving from sort of bottom reds touch points to the top green ones, it just absolutely multiplies the campaign performance without any increase in the media spend. And that's what we were able to deliver to Heineken here in this case as well, a 12 times increase in social actions compared to the non-optimized version of the campaign. So this example that I just described, 11 videos, 3 markets, it already is a bit challenging for any traditional approach. I mean, at least in the time frame that it takes to deploy the learnings. But it was just a couple of weeks ago when we got a new support request in for a campaign of 120 videos in 5 markets. And the whole sort of total budget for producing and distributing those videos was just above €1 million. So again, the zeros have definitely moved around in the industry and created this new challenge for brands to deal with if you still want to apply intelligent targeting optimization in these scenarios. So what we at Realeyes believe where the solution to that is in the combination of new tech and radical redesign and automation of research workflows. So the first building block is really the emotions themselves. Again, it's a very scalable data point. It's easy to get together, whether you run very slick panel tests, or you actually measure it in experience when people are watching videos on any website, which is a new capability just recently available. So building on that scaling building block, if you then automate the results interpretation and link it to actual campaign management, you really have covered all the areas and you have that new tool available to cater for the new requirements in video marketing. So these blocks are coming together just now, so we're very excited at Realeyes to be in the middle of it and come up with something that really helps brands to stay in control over their social media success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mihkel. And clearly, great example of how research companies are coming forward to solve today's problems with new technology. As you said, the zeros are increasing. We cannot use old methods to measure new technology. All right, great. Next up, we have Eva Lopez, Client Services Director with Ipsos in Spain, and she's going to share something about TV and YouTube measurement. Come on now.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me? Well, first of all, it was not something that I invented yesterday night after the Muppet Show, but let's go on. I came today just to explain you one really challenging research that we had the opportunity to run last year. And it was not easy, but I think that the learnings that we have from this research will be very useful for all of us. So let's start from the beginning. One of our big clients, they came and asked us to do a research, and they wanted to compare the effect of advertising embedded in TV versus the advertising embedded in TV plus digital, both in just one person. So we needed to know how these environments are helping the brand lift in these different combinations. So the point here was, wow, we are really lucky because it's something that is not usual. We have to do something, and we were really excited. But then we went to our office and thought, oh, that's not that easy, because we need to do a lot of things. We need to have something very controlled. If we want to just to measure the brand uplift, we need to control all the contents. We know that the creativity and the content that you are delivering are influencing to the brand funnel reaction. So we need to have a very controlled scenario where we also we need to be very accurate because the results should be uncontestable. And also we have to do something which is scalable, because this research was aimed to be run in more than 5 countries. So that was not easy. And then we started considering what we have in the market. So we can have a live test resource for digital, which is perfect. We can do the typical copy testing system that we have some information about, but we cannot compare them. So it was a problem, how to deal with it. So at the end, we considered that the best thing to do this is to invite or to prepare a lab test solution that give us this control environment, knowing exactly what we are showing to our viewers, and then having the good conclusions from what we have observed. So what we did was to use the TV cell with people that were exposed in their home in a TV program with all the TV ads, and we knew exactly what they were watching. But we also needed to do something similar to the reality in a YouTube environment, in mobile and desktop. So maybe it's better that you can see the video and how it runs. So the idea is that all respondents were very close to the reality. So we really simply make it a YouTube in their application, in their mobile and in their desktops, and they just select the video content, watch the ad, they can skip, they can do everything that they could do in a real YouTube environment. And then they were redirected to the interview, and then we will be able to measure all the brand measures. So we had the solution, and we did it. We tested 48 ads in 7 countries, and here are the results. What we found, and this is something that everyone was expected, is that if you are exposing to someone to 2 OTAs in TV, the brand funnel reacts, and there are uplifts in all along the funnel, especially in ad awareness at the most spontaneous levels. But we also have the combination, which was the most complicated thing, is that what is happening if instead of only having 2 OTs in TV, I have today 1 OT is in TV and tomorrow 1 OT is in digital, or the vice versa. And what we found is that if we have the opportunity to measure this in one single person, the uplift of this combined TV plus digital, in this case, TV plus a TrueView ad in YouTube, is even better. So at the end, this combination, TV is good, but the combination is even better. Therefore, our learning here, and the thing that we wanted to share with you is that even though the digital things are the future, sometimes we need to look for another solutions that give us the same kind of information so we can track people with this kind of application. We know what they are doing, but we have them in a really controlled and laboratory situation. So we know that what we are doing is really, really accurate, and the results are really, really strong. And I think I have run a lot, so thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Eva. Thanks for sharing that. We have some time for questions, so let's open up to the audience if anybody has questions. And if you really don't have questions about marketing effectiveness in the digital age, it's a bit of a shocker. I'm sure you have questions. Could you wait for the mic? So, thank you.
Hello, Mark Donatelli from Ogilvy and Mather. How did you control for socioeconomic differences or from country to country? When television is more ingrained in some societies than others, or even age differences.
Yeah. Should be on.
Should be on? Can you hear me? Okay. What we did was just to recruit people that we knew beforehand. So all the people were, in some countries they were in face-to-face situation, in other cases were online. And we knew beforehand who are there. So they were controlled in terms of gender, in terms of age. They also were controlled in order of which were their attitudes regarding the navigation in the digital environments, in this case in YouTube. And actually, we did randomly assignate to the people which cell they will be there. So the same people can be selected for TV plus TV or for TV plus YouTube.
All right. Question?
Hello.
Go ahead, Winder.
Hi, this is Winder from Kaiser Technology. My question is to Mihkel. Do you actually separate positive emotion and negative emotion and compare it with the engagement? Because a lot of times negative emotion actually drive high engagement, and positive emotion is actually one important attribute to drive a good brand content. Yeah.
Yeah, you can use that.
Microphone. All right. Well, thank you for the question. Well, we actually go way beyond positive and negative because first of all, we do all the 6 basic emotions. You might have heard of the Ekman sort of universal ones, and we go even further to measure attention. If people are looking on the screen, what is their heart rate? You know, we're working on, you know, likability, things like that. So we have many different emotional signals that we measure, and the sort of the criteria that we apply in terms of making it to the sort of the dashboard and into our methodologies, how much does it add to the signal of actually predicting people's behavior? So to your sort of negative and positive question, reply is that actually both go into them, because we also have a measure called emotion that, engagement, sorry, that takes account of any emotion, positive and negative, and that's one of the big building blocks of that very simple emotional thing that I showed. So overall, happiness, surprise, the most important ones that we see right now, but about 20-25% really comes from the negative signals as well. I think that's a gross simplification of that balance that we see.
All right, thank you, Mihkel. Any other questions? There's a question up there.
Thank you. This is for Eva. I found it fascinating about the comparative between television and online video. So the question for you is, the audiences react very differently to the same content in both media. Did you change the content to do the comparative?
Yeah, actually what we did was to expose to a TV program in TV with a clutter reel, so replicating the real life on their houses, on their homes. And in YouTube, we have the 20 of the most popular videos, so they can select the one that they wanted. So the content were different, but the ads were the same. And we're always checking test versus control. So people exposed to this environment against people who were exposed to the ad. Is this clear?
All right, I have a quick question for Lucien and Alyssa, and a very quick one. You know, what can marketers do to do a better job of having social metrics that can be used for mixed modeling? What would you recommend?
Actually, we would love to get more requests for data to help with market and mix modeling. We are happy to discuss what metrics we have tested and learned from. We have a plethora of learnings at this time, but I think at this time it also kind of requires for a consultative approach to help understand, specifically for modelers who are tasked with building these models, and understanding what is owned, what is earned, what is paid, how users experience all three, and how to best capture in the models.
Okay, that's great news for marketers. I'm going to be in touch with you for sure. Thomas, quick question for you. You talked about program integration and some of your learnings. How wide have you tested that beyond pre-rolls? Have you done other kinds of formats where you see similar results?
Sure. We own Huffington Post, so there's a ton of native content in there. We have a big group called Beyond, which is kind of branded entertainment series of videos. So it runs a full spectrum of custom, what we call custom content. And at this point, there's more than 50 programs that have been measured, and we actually partnered with Ipsos for the bulk of this measurement. The measurement itself isn't overly sophisticated, but it's one of the only large databases that I know of, and we work with some of the major content analytics groups, Simple Reach, there's a few others, and nobody publishes content norms. It's actually one of the most frustrating things. I came from Dynamic Logic, which had a very robust normative database around brand building, and it was a barrier to entry for years. And so I'm surprised nobody's really done it in the content world, so we're building our own.
Okay, very good. We're out of time. Thank you, gentlemen, and Alyssa, for participating and sharing your findings and helping add to the base of knowledge. Thank you again.